So we begin our afternoon, and there's Zenkai here. We're deepening in this really lovely day to set. Sunny with some overcast clouds. Maybe we'll get a little rain. Tears are so welcome in the Zendo. You know, like rain for our heart. Yeah. Some may feel, when you hear others with sincere tears touches you. I heard some tears, and I got in closer contact with something that I'm very sad about right now. And that felt good, very good. It's the power of practicing together in a space like this as we kind of alchemize each other with our practices. How wonderful, how wonderful. Everything as it is the enlightened way. So Shakyamuni said upon his enlightenment, everything as it is the enlightened way. We have to have a certain attitude towards what is, right, in order to really see this, to appreciate this. And that attitude has to be open. To be open to feeling, open to seeing, open to experiencing, open to other people as they are, open to other conditions than the ones you prefer as they are. This openness is essential for experiencing what we call emptiness. It's the word that we use to point to something, but it's not a thing, and it's not that great a word sometimes. But it's essential. Maybe even can say that openness is emptiness. To really be open. To be openness. To be openness itself. This past Wednesday was the 30th anniversary of the passing of Maezumi Roshi. And I'm feeling that very strongly right now. Shone and I left a little early for our morning sitting to go and attend the memorial service that was held out in Los Angeles for Maezumi Roshi's 30th. And it was Zoomed, so people could Zoom in, and we went out and attended the memorial. It was quite wonderful. And this afternoon we'll be extending our chant service by a little bit to include our memorial to Maezumi Roshi. Now, along with that, I discovered this hour-long documentary that had been put together on Maezumi Roshi. It's up on YouTube. You can see it. It was done by a Dutch team, so there's all these Dutch subtitles, but most of the actual conversation is in English, so you don't need anything special. And they have some footage, actually, of Maezumi Roshi from 91, 92, a few years before he passed in 95. Which was the time that I was actually resident at ZCLA, so it was really precious for me to see this footage from those years. I was a resident right there while these clips were being filmed. But most of it was filmed in 2007, so about 12 years after he had passed away, on the 40th anniversary of ZCLA. And so there were a lot of interviews with Bernie Glassman and Egyoku Roshi and Genpo Roshi, and then also Maezumi's wife and daughter's daughter were also kind of interviewed quite extensively. And I really enjoyed it very much. One thing from the Maezumi clip that really resonated with me was a bit from a talk that he was giving. And people were reflecting on how difficult his life was in some way, how challenging it was to come over from Japan and to bring the Dharma practice, Zen practice, to the West. It was very challenging for him to, even live in our culture, let alone try to bring this form alive. And he didn't understand a lot of things, and he, probably broke some social cultural norms that were okay in Japan but weren't okay here. So it was very challenging. And his successors reflected on that 12 years afterwards. They said, wow, he just really, it was a very challenging life. And several people said, it would have been so much easier of a life for him. So I think, as many people know, as you may know, he wrestled with alcoholism, and that was something that created a lot of problems at Zen Center of Los Angeles at a certain point. And then he went to the Betty Ford Clinic, and he went into a sobriety program. And then he came out, and he stayed, and he continued practicing and building the Zen Center. And it would have been so much easier for him to just go back to Japan and just live a life that wouldn't have required him to do so much of what he was doing. And people noticed that, and I know Shishin, my teacher, really valued that too. He loved Maezumi, and he respected him, and he accepted him as a human being with flaws, and he appreciated how he just kept going, in this place. So what Maezumi said in this Dharma talk, it just very much resonated with me. He said, regardless of what kind of joy I have, or pain I have, or sadness I have, or burden I have, or enjoyment I have, in its nature, it is empty. And being so, I can take it. So this openness to the emptiness of all of these conditions is really essential in order to be able to, not only, to be able to face the world with this type of agency and this sort of clarity and power. But to fulfill whatever mission you feel you have in your life. It can't be based on state conditions that you're seeking to attain, or accomplishments or goals. And you have to be able to see all of it as empty. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist, or it doesn't mean to minimize it. It actually means being open to the intimate experience of it. Yeah, our practice here is about experiencing life from the inside. Experiencing from the inside, and we can really work with this in our zazen quite directly, because so often we're actually experiencing everything about our life from a distance, as something out there. Even our bodies, the conditions, our states, other people. It's always often subtly something out there, something other. So when we take our zazen position, we in a sense, we can kind of work our way in the body, and then we experience the body. But we can experience the body almost from the outside, not from the inside. And we're kind of, oh, what's my body doing now? Oh, how do I feel? Oh, yeah, my posture isn't quite right. Whenever there's that subtle kind of gap, it's like a judgment or a correction or a comparison or a drive for it to be different than it is. It might not even be verbalized, like, oh, I should be straightening my back, or I should be more balanced, or I shouldn't be feeling this, or I don't want to feel this. Right? I'm giving words to that, but it might not even come into words. It could be just like that subtle pre-verbal sense of those things. I shouldn't be this way, or I don't want to be this way. Those impulses are what are separating us from that. It's out there. But then when you just feel what you're feeling, the posture is what it is. Like Shakyamuni said, everything as it is the enlightened way. So to have your cockamamie posture be perfect as it is. And then just feel it without any, I don't mean feel it, be it. Now we work with our emotions in the same way, our feelings, right? They can be at a somewhat of a distance. Some meditation instruction says to witness, right? There's like develop the witness, and we witness our body, we witness our feelings and emotions, and that's a good step in meditation, is to develop that witness. But it can be a dead end to just establish that witness if you're keeping this distance from your own life, your own experience. If you're not participating in it fully, right? So we're closing the gap between the witness and the witnessed. So it's good to notice the feelings and feel the feelings. You must feel the feelings. But also realize when there is that gap, that I'm experiencing it and it's good or bad or different or what. And then go into it and become it. Completely lose yourself in the tears. Lose yourself in the feeling. Lose yourself in the moment of uplift. You don't know where it's going to go. It doesn't have a meaning. The tears could go for 5 minutes, or they could stop on a dime. The joy can be soaring, or it could poof out. But you're on the inside, experiencing the feelings from the inside, and the body from the inside. Now we go deeper. The mind, consciousness itself, awareness. We can have this separation from that too. I'm not talking about thoughts. I'm talking about the consciousness itself. You don't separate from that at all. So when we go that far in, then outside disappears. There's no outside. Every sound, dogs, hammers, is inside. All of us are inside. We're all in this. And that's in this. It's in each one of us. So to find your way through those gateways of thingness, those gateways of externalization that we do, making them outside, making them fixed, making them other. It's just a gateway. It's just a koan to move through. We experience it as something out, a state we're feeling, or another person we're interacting with, or a condition in the world. But then when we make that shift and we experience it from the inside, that's opening to emptiness. I imagine this is like being a really good musician and playing a song. And we have a few professional musicians here. Steve is a master guitarist. And I imagine, I'm not a musician myself, but I imagine that when you're really in it, you're inside the song. And there's a relationship with it where you're not that. You're following the script and you're playing the notes, and it's something external. And then comes a time, and maybe you're there a lot. You're probably there a lot. And you're just inside the song. And that's the livingness. That's emptiness. I'm happy that Steve was able to sit with us. Most of the time I come and you're practicing your guitar, and then you're usually going out to do a performance. Yeah, on Saturdays. Profound Zen practice. Yeah.
Yes, I tell my students, you need to get to the point where the song plays itself.
Where the song plays itself. Yeah. The song plays itself. And how much practice, right, does it take to do that? I mean, the nuts and bolts of the body and the heart and that's what our Zazen is, really. We're practicing the song of our life until the song plays itself. Yeah, that's what Zazen is. So there's this opening, this opening. That's kind of my image here, my metaphor is opening. I don't know if I mentioned this, but one thing that prompted me into that was Maezumi Roshi in the documentary. She said that's the quality of Maezumi that most struck her, that stayed with her, was his openness. And she went, open like this! Open to everything, which is what I heard in this quote. I can deal with my sadness, with my enjoyment, with all of this, because it's fundamentally empty. And that's being open to it. And she was like, he was so open that you could just take a little bit, and that was so much, because it was connected to this blazing, source. Open to everything. open to everything coming in and then everything going out. It just became a mutual exchange, for him. Being open actually fuels our expression. They go hand in hand. We can experience this in our zazen, just to be open to all of the sensations, all of the thoughts, all of the feelings, right? All of it, open, open, open. And then expression starts to come out. We start to be motivated to actually move forth and give. In our form, we have service positions that give us a real nice form for that expression. And the service positions are as much about being open as they are about following, the protocol. But when we start a service position, we're really focused on the form. We're really focused on the protocol, when to hit the bells, how to hit the bells, right? Where to move, how to move, when to bow, how to bow. Shoshin's been doing Jukido for about a year now, maybe. Yeah. And she's gotten very good at it. You might notice. I'm always noticing the subtleties of the service positions and how they're, and the way she's striking the bell now is with just the right tenor. Nothing is getting in the way of that. And that goes along with listening, right? She's got to be able to listen to the whole zendo, and with her eyes as well, see the whole zendo for the right time to hit. And then get out of her own way as far as the actual expression goes. So, when we start our practice, whether it's zazen or a service position or playing the guitar, the focus is very much on the form, on the script, but we have to move past that. Open up to the whole life that's moving through that. And then we hit the bell at just the right time, just the right sound. Regardless of what kind of joy I have, or pain I have, or sadness I have, or burden I have, or enjoyment I have, in its nature, it's empty. And being so, I can take it. According to his successors, Maezumi was very, very open to them taking forward, their teachings in the form that felt right for them. That was their expression. And in fact, he, again, according to his senior successors, had expressed that he had taken the Dharma Zen practice as far as he could in American culture, and that it was up to his successors to take it the next step. And Bernie commented how when he started doing his street retreats, which was a very non-traditional form of Zen, Maezumi on the one hand was fully supportive of it, and on the other hand, wrestled with it a bit. Like Bernie could tell that he was, it was challenging for him to allow this other form to flourish, and yet he supported him fully in that. Genpo said that in this documentary, which is his Maezumi's second successor. He didn't think he could do Big Heart, which was the kind of form of Zen that he developed, that combined voice dialogue and some other, you could say, Western kind of practices, Western psychological sort of practices and insights. That's maybe minimizing it, but an interesting form. And he said he couldn't have done it while Maezumi was still alive. It took him 5 years after Maezumi had passed to be able to do that, because Genpo himself felt too beholden to his ideas of what Maezumi would approve of or not. So openness, does extend to other people. Our own legacies. Having people be themselves. Yeah. This form, this Zen practice is not fixed. It isn't fixed. Bernie told my teacher Shishin that he thought we were in the very early stages of Zen in America, and that we wouldn't have a real American form of Zen for 100 years. So we're about 50 years into American Zen, really, and it's a real, grounded way. So I think that's probably about right. Another 50 years, at least. Maybe. It seems that way to me. The forms are really shifting generation by generation, and even within generations, the forms are shifting. So I try to maintain, the best of what I've practiced with my teachers and the sanghas that I've been a part of, and bring, my own kind of spirit to it. And even so, it's still changing too. My teachers, Shishin Roshi and Roshi Shinko, they taught me so much in not only the forms, but the multiple forms that they developed over the years. Over the 20 years I practiced with them, they had a number of different forms where they hybridized a number of different practices, all with a great depth to it, and broadening even in the material that they brought in. So I feel very fortunate to have studied with both of them. And nothing is fixed. Nothing is fixed. We can't focus on any of these forms. We can't focus on any of these. All of the forms, all of our Zen forms, are with the purpose of allowing us to experience emptiness, openness, continuously, not just as experiences, but to continuously live in a state of openness, of acceptance, of appreciation. Then none of this is debilitating. No sadness, no grief. No burdens are too big.